Today we're going to be taking a look at an LED dice storage and organization system called the Dice Compendium 2 by Glowcraft. This was sent to me by Chris, the owner of Glowcraft. I know him, he's a good dude from down under, but it was sent to me for free, so I thought you should know that before I start reviewing, though I do think we're going to be pretty critical with it today like we are in all my reviews. So let's get started. My Compendium came to me completely put together as well as with this power adapter that had a bunch of different plug options, but I use Freedom units, so that's the plug I'm going to use. It connects via USB-C, and here's the specs on that adapter in case you're curious. Now this is the Dice Compendium 2. They still sell the Dice Compendium 1, which will be cheaper than the Compendium 2, but it's a little bit smaller, as well as the compartments for the dice are a tiny bit smaller if I'm correct, and it's a little bit cheaper, but it's not going to have the same functionality that this Compendium 2 is going to have. It's made out of laser cut MDF board as well as etched, and then laser cut acrylic, so all of the tolerances are pretty darn tight, and the main thing that draws me to it are these dice holders, dice trays, dice boxes, whatever you or they want to call them. Essentially, they hold a whole set of dice inside of them, but it also displays the D20 of whatever dice set you want to put. That way you know which set is in which location on your compendium. It's also got a cutout in the bottom where the D20 goes so that you can help orient your D20 to show the 20 aimed outwards and on display for every single dice set you have. Now, I will get into this. Well, let's get into it right now. Some of the D20s I have just don't really work with this. This shell die works pretty darn well because it's large. The larger the die, the better this seems to work, at least for me. It held in its place every single time, no matter how I moved it around, that was fine, but any of the smaller dice I had issue with. The shell dice fit in here, and they're about as large a dice sets as you're typically going to get from any maker, so I'm not worried about fitting a normal RPG set of 7 dice in these. Some of the sets I have, you can even fit more than that in it, but they fit comfortably in here. They don't really rattle around all too much, and they're great, and they're about as large as they get, like I said. But testing it around with some of the other more normalized sets, like this metal set, which a lot of people like to use regular normal size metal dice, it rattles around a lot. Now, you can get it to set in there, but that's kind of difficult on its own. Maybe I just have massive hands or something, but it's hard to keep that 20 aimed outwards. It just doesn't really happen. I tested it with other makers' dice too, like these dice from Wyvern Tyrant, which is awesome, by the way. Love what they make. They fit in there just fine. Those metal dice, I could fit about 10 dice in there total, but it really seems like the larger the dice, the better. So if you have some makers that make like the chunky D20s, not necessarily the massive ones, but like the one I did in my recent video, it fits perfectly. It doesn't move around very often, but any normal size dice I have just has issues if they're jostled around. You can definitely get it to stay on the 20, but you just don't want to move it all that often, so it's a little finicky. The back has the control circuit board, which I'm told is not going to be like this in the future, which is great because I have a lot of problems with it in the review version that I am seeing. First of all, I was sent one of the Dice Compendium, and I immediately had an issue. The bottom 2 rows weren't lighting up. Whoopsie doodle. They're not working, and so I couldn't test it how I wanted to. I immediately sent a message to Chris saying, hey, this ain't working. That's bad. And while I was waiting for him to reply, I was testing around all of the other functionality with it. First off, I was really impressed with how bright it was. That was something that I was always going to worry about in any LED thing like this, is does it actually display the dice in a good way? And it definitely does. I have the developer version of the app here just to be able to test all of the different colors and different things that you can mess around with. The full app is going to have a lot different with it, so I'm not really going to go into that right here, right now, because it's not something that I can show off. But I was able to test out all the different colors, all the different functionality at a base level, besides the stuff they're going to program in and have promised in their Kickstarter later. So I can change the kind of idle color, the color that it is whenever you open up a set of die. That way you can kind of have it display, oh, whenever I open it up, I want mine to look purple or blue or red, but when it's sitting there, I want it to look white or whatever color. You can mess around with that. The app in itself is going to have a lot of different functionality. It's nothing that I can test, so I can't really say for sure what it can or can't do. And then when I was messing around with it, mine kind of got bricked and was in a forever trying to reconnect to Bluetooth state. They were very responsive and sent me a new one ASAP. Now, they came fully put together, and I'll talk about that in like 10 seconds about why I think that's kind of interesting. The back of it is still a little bit wobbly. The circuit board that I was messing around with was not fully secure, I guess. But again, this is a review copy and not where that's going to be in the future. If you look inside with all of the compartments out, you can see all the cameras and LEDs and brains that are going to make the compendium work. And you just slide the dice compartments in there. The issue we had was with the circuit board not connecting to the back circuit board. But I don't think that's going to be an issue because everybody's else is going to be built by them. But mine was having an issue because when it was shipped, it kept getting jostled around. So it not being put together already is probably going to benefit people in the future. Mine being put together was not great, and half of the fun of the MDF stuff is building it yourself. But everything worked great now, so I could test the full functionality. That's kind of what you get when you are testing some review copies like this. It's definitely not their full, ready-to-go product, so I'm rolling with the punches a little bit and assuming that they're going to have things fixed and improved when they have the actual thing. But I can only show you what I've been able to test. It's got a cool random functionality where you can have it select a random set for you. I think that's amazing. Not only can you pick a random set to take to any D&D game, I think as a dungeon master, you could do some really cool stuff with this. You can set out the compendium, have it roll random, and have some cool things for your players. Like, oh, hey, you killed the boss. That means you get to roll with the dice compendium, and you could have some cool rewards hidden behind there. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head, but that's a cool way that DMs can do stuff outside of just picking some dice. Now, like I said, I'm only able to access their developer app just to be able to mess around with the colors in different states, but the background of what the app can do and the software on that side is going to have a lot of cool functionality, assuming everything works properly. Again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to test it personally, but I was able to test you shouldn't tip it over. Okay. Don't tip it over. See, past me and I agree. The only other issue I had with the review copy that I received, and I'm glad that they're changing this in the final thing, is the circuit board on the back. Even when it was off, it was warm because it didn't actually turn off. It just went into standby mode, and this LED was set way too high just so that they could test things. So it's not going to be a problem in the real thing, I'm told, but it was something I noticed and had to show off. As well, their tolerances are fantastic. They're super tight, but because it is an MDF thing, you can accidentally open it pretty easily. I did that a few times. It's just something you should know. I would put maybe just like a bead of glue along the top, but that's just me. For some reason, the actual dice containers here, I could not open them even if I tried, so I don't know what the difference between them and the actual compendium was, but since you're going to be putting it together yourself, I thought that some people might want to know that. As well, you're going to be messing with circuit boards as far as connecting them to other things and electronics. I don't think anything too complex, no soldering or anything like that, but it is something you're going to put together. The thing I'm most excited about is the dice app. Again, can't really show off much on there, but you're going to be able to do cool things like separate them by color, highlight all your purple dice, separate them by maker, show me all the red dice that I own, things like that, and you can even track things outside of the compendium themselves, and it should have some smart functionality. Say you move one dice set to another slot, it should move that color along with that dice set. Unfortunately, I can only show you what I have, but I think if they are able to do everything that they promised, they've got a real winner on their hands here. I'd love to take a look at this product whenever it's fully out. Maybe I'll get to do another video on that in the future. Who knows? Let me know in the comments what you use to organize your dice. I just have a bajillion dice bags in a box. There's better ways to do it. Check out the link to the Kickstarter in the description down below. Subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos in the future. Raheem, I'm looking at you. Either way, I hope that you have a fantastic day.